Hey everyone, it's Samantha. Olaf may not know who Samantha is, but now you do. And welcome to another solo story bonus episode of Solo Magic, the podcast about the magic of going to Disney World solo. Today, I got to talk with Yvette, who has been to Disney World a few times now. She did a really big trip for her 50th birthday. Then she did a bucket list trip where she got to do some behind the scenes tours. And it was so cool to hear her stories about all these like different things that she was able to do and find and learn when she went to Disney World solo. And after we were talking, actually, she talked about how she has a trip coming up to do some Run Disney stuff. And I actually can't wait to connect with other people after they do their first like Run Disney, or maybe not necessarily their first, but a big Run Disney event to hear what that's like doing that solo. But it was just so wonderful to talk with Yvette about her experiences, and I hope that you also enjoy listening. So please, if you are interested in this episode, as well as all the episodes, and I don't know how you could not be, make sure you subscribe and rate and review. This is available on Apple and Spotify and YouTube, and you can like subscribe to all of those. I have no problem with that at all. If you want to connect with me, which would be amazing, you can do so on Instagram, Disney_solo_magic. I am also on Facebook, so you can connect me with me there. And it's been really awesome to do these bonus solo stories. So if you also want to be a solo story person that I talk to, I have to figure out a catchier way to say that. Make sure you connect with me, like I said, on Instagram, but through any of those platforms, and it would really be great to talk with you. You can also contact Yvette and follow her and all of her adventures, and the link to her account is in the description of this episode below. So make sure you click on that and follow her as well. All right, well, let's get into it. I can't wait for you to hear this awesome conversation. Hello, Yvette. It's so wonderful to be able to speak with you for this podcast. Thank you so much for coming on. Can you please introduce yourself and tell everyone listening a little bit about who you are and about your Disney journey?
Oh, sure. My name's Yvette. I am from the Virginia area, and I guess my Disney journey kind of began when I was around 6 or 7. My mom took me to Magic Kingdom, and that was in the 70s. So that was the only thing that existed back then. I just barely remember it. This is back when you had the Skyway at Magic Kingdom and everything. And the ride that I did not like very much was Snow White's Scary Adventure. That thing scared me to death.
There's a hint in the title that it was
Yeah,
gonna scare
yeah.
you. Yeah.
And then after that, I didn't really get involved with Disney going down because of just, family stuff and everything until my daughter, she's an adult now, married and everything, but when she was around 14, in like 2012 was the first time I actually got to go back down to Disney World. And then I've been trying to go usually every other year, but when I first started going down, it was like every 3 years. I love the characters. That's something I love to do. I always got to meet characters, and I love Haunted Mansions, my favorite ride at Magic Kingdom. My favorite thing that happened to me was I went to Epcot during Mother's Day time, and when I went down with my daughter, she was kind of doing her own thing with her friends, and I was solo, which I love to do. Um, when I went into Epcot, they were giving every mother a carnation.
Oh wow.
It was so sweet. I was not expecting that. And so that was a lot of fun of like a little, Disney magic as you're coming into the park that day.
Yeah,
And
and
then
I think too, actually, like that's a an interesting way to kind of start the idea of like solo travel if you are going with kids that are, in their early to late teens that can kind of do their own thing, that you can just be like,
Mhm.
oh, I could have this hour to myself or this like afternoon by myself. What could I do? I can imagine it's very tempting.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing is that my daughter knows that I'm not a roller coaster person. I don't do roller coasters. My I'm actually going in November this year, and my friend, she hasn't been except for barely once years ago, and she is talking me into going on Tron.
Have you been on
So
Guardians?
no, like I said, I am not a roller coaster person at all. Uh, I love like Flight of Passage and spinny rides and things like that, where she can't stand spinny rides. She loves roller coasters, but can't stand spinny rides. I said, "You go on a roller coaster, I'll go on the spinny rides."
Yeah, I don't really like rides either. But I wanted to try Guardians because I like the music, but
Right.
I haven't done Tron and I am not overly like excited to. I think it would have to be someone being like, "Oh no, like let's do it together."
I think the only reason I like that I want to try Tron is it's barely a 2-minute roller coaster,
Mm.
and it's like a minute and a half, I think. And I love Tron. That's what I grew up watching,
Oh,
was the
okay.
Tron movies. So I love Tron. So I'm like, okay, I'll give you that one, but no more.
Yeah, I did like the spaceship ride at Epcot, Mission Space.
Oh yeah.
And I had like a nervous breakdown. Like my nervous system literally was like, "Oh, we need quiet time in a dark room for a few hours." So, with the first time I did Guardians, I was like kind of worried it was going to shake up my brain. And I got off and I was like, okay, I think that was fun. I think I had a good time, but I am just going to stand on this wall for like 15 minutes to just ground myself. So, can you
Um,
tell me a little bit about like your solo story, like about your experiences going by yourself?
oh sure. My biggest one was back in 2021, was my 50th birthday.
Oh, well,
Um,
happy 50th birthday a few years ago.
Yeah. And I was just like, I want to make this a great 50th because my family and stuff's not big on parties and all that kind of stuff. So I was like, you know what? I'm treating myself. I'm going down to Disney World by myself and have a great time.
I love it.
Um, so one thing that I always make a point of is meeting characters. That's one of my favorite things to do. I have so many pictures of characters, not even funny. And I love interacting with them. And that's one thing that some people are a little nervous to do, is to interact with solo characters. And all it is if you've watched their movie, mention their movie. That's
Right.
the
Yeah.
easiest thing to do when you're meeting a character, of like talk about like their sidekick, or talk about their, like a family member in that movie that's associated, or part of their storyline, or something that happened in the movie. That's the easiest thing to do. Like, let's say like when I met Olaf, I'm like, "Oh, I love warm hugs too." And just little things like that just makes it fun.
Yeah, and
Um,
what I find too with the characters that speak in particular, I'll like come up with some questions or comments that I'll say, right? To be like, "Oh, I don't want it to be awkward." And then I was like, "Oh no, they do this all the time. Like they
mhm,
often will ask you questions and like interact with you. Like that's their job. It's not this weird thing that all of a sudden you're like coming up. It's their job to host you. So they'll always like
exactly.
talk to you and have questions and yeah.
Yeah, the fun thing I did, because I love to do art. I do paintings and things. And when I met Rapunzel, I showed her on my phone one of my paintings, and
Wow.
she just like lit up. It was so much fun.
Yeah.
Um, and then I have, like I said, that I don't do roller coasters, but I have like certain rides I always ride in the different parks. And one thing that a lot of people have a problem with, which I don't, is eating by yourself.
Mm.
And one thing that I love to do is, if you're eating by yourself and you're kind of nervous about it, one thing is, like, if you have like a little show you want to watch on, put your earpods in, watch your show, and then eat your food, whether
Mhm.
it's a quick service or a table service, or bring a book, read a book while you're eating. Or even another thing that I've done is bring in your park maps and plan your day while you're eating.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's a little uncomfortable. So people of like, "Oh, I'm by myself. They've taken up the other silverware across the way from me," especially if you're at a table service. But my favorite table service is to do that makes it better is go to a character meal.
Mhm.
Character meals will distract you from thinking that you're by yourself, even though that, you know, Disney's for we're big kids. That's what it's for, is to have fun. You're a kid at heart when you're at Disney. And that's one thing that I always tell people. They're like, "I'm nervous about going by myself." And I'm like, "No, it's fun." And I always say, "You're in the Disney bubble. Be in the bubble."
Yes, yes. And, yeah, they take away that extra place setting. To me, like, that is better because then it's not like, "Oh, someone you you came with just abandoned you."
Right, right,
I was like, "Perfect, it's a place for my phone, a place for my purse, I can see it, no one can
exactly.
steal it." And then, like, every single time, if you wanna talk with your waiter or your waitress, like, the cast
Mhm.
members, like, they will always make conversation with you, and if you don't, like, that's fine, they'll leave you alone too, but it's never lonely, and if you don't
No,
want it to be, right?
exactly. And that's one thing that I love about the cast members is like, I'll give you a perfect example. I was at Satuli Canteen in Animal Kingdom, and I was there for my 50th.
Mhm,
And I had just, got a mobile order, went to the table, and while I was sitting there, he saw my birthday button,
mhm.
and he was just cleaning off tables. And then I was like, "Hey, how are you doing? You having a good day?" Just having just normal conversation with just seeing someone. Next thing I know, he's come back out and has one of those elaborate, pretty desserts that he gave me a magic moment. Was not expecting that, but just
Yeah,
because I gave him a smile and was just like asking how his day was going,
yeah.
he wanted to give me a magic moment of, celebrating my birthday.
The thing with, like, the magic moments and being pixie dusted, you can't predict it, you don't know what's gonna happen, but it's just like when you are there and you aren't expecting it, that's when this
Mhm.
magic comes alive, and whether or not it's, like, an explicit gift, right? Like a dessert, or it's just that connection, like, if you are
Mhm.
just open to it, the magic is all around you.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's like like last year when I went, I've been having some knee issues, so I was using an ECV.
Mhm.
And trying to get around a crowd in an ECV, it's a little hard.
It's difficult.
It can be a little difficult. But I was getting on the Jungle Cruise ride, and for you to use the ECV on the Jungle Cruise ride, there's only a certain boat that does it, so you have to wait, which I'm fine, and it's covered. You're not in the sun and everything. While I was sitting there waiting, I had the best conversation with a cast member while we were waiting around.
Yeah.
We just was, joking and talking, and they were asking me about my day. I was asking them about their day and how long they've been working for Disney. And I mean, it was just a fun little conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because, like, I've used this example a few times on the podcast. It's not like you're like, "Oh, I'm just in Orlando on a conference and thought I would pop in." Like, "Oh, what's there to do here?" It's like, no, everyone knows that you are here to be
Mhm.
Disney, to be in
Oh
the
yeah,
Disney bubble. Like, you don't need to hide all of that. It's like
yeah.
everyone is there for those things.
Another thing that's really fun when you're solo uh, is the fact that you're able to get on rides a lot easier being solo because you can get on the single rider lines, like with Test Track or with Expedition Everest if you're a roller coaster person. Um, and then one thing that I love is like when I would go, like Flight of Passage, for instance, I would be like, let's say in the lightning lane or whatever. But then when they're like divvying people out and they're like, hey, who's my one person? You're going to get up in the head of the line potentially, not all the time, but most of the time when they're needing to like fill that one spot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people don't realize that.
No, no, that there is an advantage of being able to do it on your own time and your own pace because you can get pulled up. But it's the same thing too with like Genie Plus. Like I am a night person, so I
Mhm.
like to go at night, and so I'll just stack Genie Plus all day, and then just when I get there at Magic Kingdom at night, just do ride after ride after ride. But I'm not there with somebody where I'm just like, okay, well, do you think you're going to be up for it at 8 o'clock, and like all of this other stuff. So yeah, you can do the rides, you can do all these attractions, whether it is through a single rider line getting pulled up, organizing it that way.
Yeah, that's another thing that I like about being solo is that if you're an early morning person like me, hey, it doesn't matter. You can go ahead and get into the park and get into the
Right,
line before the buses ever get there. Or if you're like a late night person and you want to stay there all night, hey, you don't have to worry. Hey, are you okay to stay? Hey, are
right.
you okay to get up? And I'm like out the door and I'm like, hey, bye.
Yeah. One time I was there with my mom. We went to Animal Kingdom and I wanted to get to Kilimanjaro safaris like very first thing. And then we also
Mhm.
had like a behind the scenes tour. I think we were doing the rhinos that day.
Oh,
And
okay.
but I wanted to do the safari as early as possible. And so we come in and she's like, "Oh my God, these plants." And she's like stopping and looking. And I was like, "Okay, look, we
We
can
got to
come
get to
back
this
and do
ride.
this if you want, no problem, 100%. However, we have a very narrow window that we need to get to the end of this park." And she was like, "Oh, okay." And so she's like walking, and then she's like, "Oh my God, but look at this." And I was like, "Okay, no, like seriously, we can come back. I promise you, but I have a plan." And so the last time I went and I was solo, I remember like walking by those plants and be like, "Oh, it'd be nice to look at those plants, but I have to get Kilimanjaro safaris myself."
That's one thing that I love. If you go to Kilimanjaro safaris, like the first one out or the second one out for the morning, you potentially will get to hear the lions roar, which I actually got to.
That's
It is
exciting.
so cool.
That's
And
cool.
things don't people don't realize is the MGM like lion, that's a tiger. That's not a lion's roar.
Yeah, and actually, like the animation of their mouth is in reverse. It's them actually
Uh-huh.
closing their mouth. Yeah. So there you go. The more you know. So you
Yeah.
said you went for your 50th, and I know you've done some really cool like bucket list things too. Can you tell me about like your bucket list trip? Was that also your 50th trip?
No, actually it was last year.
Ooh,
I just went last year, and this was the first time I got to go during the holidays. I've never been during the holidays. And so I went back in November and got to see Disney and Christmas thing. And it was my longest trip. Normally I go for like 5 days or less when I would go down, but I went down there for 10 days last
wow.
year. I had so much fun. And I got to do both Christmas parties, the first Jollywood one that ever came out last year at Hollywood Studios,
Oh, we were
and
there at
went
the same time
to
then.
they had improved it the day after because I went to the grand opening one. They needed to improve a few things.
I heard.
Yeah. I waited in a what was it, an hour and a half line to meet Phineas and Ferb.
Yep, that's
But it
not
was
how you
fun.
want to spend an evening event.
No, no. Um, and I went to the Magic Kingdom one, which was a lot of fun. A interesting thing that happened to me at the Magic Kingdom one is I was going around doing like the cookie stops
Mm-hmm.
and happened to was going in line and happened to see a cast member, and I was just waiting there and she was like, "Oh, your name's Yvette. My name's Yvette too." And so I got to get a picture with one of the cast member managers that we both had the same name and got a selfie together.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice.
That was so cute. But my main two big things I did on that 10-day trip was I did Keys to the Kingdom,
Mm-hmm.
which is the behind the scenes tour at Magic Kingdom. And you actually get to go underneath Magic Kingdom to the utilidors, which is so much fun. And back in the back, and you get to see the parade floats
Yeah.
and everything. Um, a really cute little moment that we were not expecting. I think even our tour guide was not expecting when we were going through the tour. The bad thing is with the Keys of the Kingdom, you can't video at all, take
Yeah.
pictures or nothing, which is a bummer because there were so many
I
little
know.
moments I would love to have got to take a picture.
I know. I know.
But
It was so tough.
but when we were going through Frontierland after we had finished lunch, because they provide lunch as part of the tour, um, one of the country bears grabbed the tour guide sign and started leading us.
Oh,
It was so cute. And she's like, okay, he's taking over now. Let's
yeah.
follow him. So that was a really cute thing. But my best thing that happened was as you were talking about Kilimanjaro safaris and like the rhinos tour, I actually got to go on the Wild Africa trek.
Oh, cool.
That was absolutely amazing. They get you in this whole rig, and when you go through the Wild Africa Trek, you're actually hiking. You're in the backyards of behind the scenes in Kilimanjaro safaris, and you get to meet like the animal keepers, and we got to see the hippos, and then we went over these two rope bridges, and the rope bridges take you across the hippos and the crocodiles.
Alligators, yeah.
Yeah, alligators. I mean, the alligators. And then when you got off there, you got to go behind the scenes and meet the caretaker for the alligators.
Cool.
And then they got you on this smaller truck that does not as big as the Kilimanjaro's trucks. And you got to go like stop and be really close to the animals and meet some of the keepers and learn some behind the scenes of some of like the foliage and different things that happen behind the scenes. Like the big tree that you see that they talk about, that upside down big tree.
Mm-hmm. The
It's
Balboa
actually a
tree.
water the boa tree actually has a automated thing in it that dispenses water for the animals.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually have a little lifted area that's taller that you can't see really well for the giraffe, so they don't have to do like yoga positions to try to get to the water. So that was really cool. And then the other thing was you got to have lunch in the middle of the savannah where the safaris are. It's like you get to see safari vehicles, and they had like binoculars. You could look at the animals, and so they had this whole little canteen um, thing and that actually the name of Tiffin's, the restaurant, is what those little canteen things are called. They're called
Mm-hmm.
Tiffin's,
Yes.
and they had this whole meal. And I have a sensory disorder, and that's one thing I love about Disney. They are phenomenal about special dietary restrictions. And they had done this whole extra meal for me so that I was able to eat like other foods that others couldn't, or I mean, I couldn't, but
Mm-hmm.
they're normal ones. And then another neat thing about the Wild Africa Trek is that part of the funds go toward the conservation for doing the Wild Africa Trek. So you're like helping the animals and you're having fun.
Yeah, I did Savor the Savannah, so it was the less intense version of that. And
Uh-huh.
it's so, so cool. And to do that as
Hmm.
a solo, because it is an additional cost that, is a little expensive, especially if you're going with a whole bunch of people. Like
Oh yeah.
it's so magical to hear, like to get
Hmm.
all those behind the scenes things. That's so cool that you were able to do both of those things in the one trip.
Yeah, and the nice thing is that both those trips, of course, those tours are, you have other people that you don't know on that tour, but
Mm-hmm.
you get to know new people, which
Yeah.
is really cool. Because like one of the groups, I want to say it was the Keys to the Kingdom, they were like there was a couple that was from England that I got to meet.
Yeah.
So that was really neat.
That's cool. That's cool. But it's funny when you said like no photos, like the whole time, because I did the Keys to the Kingdom when I was in the utilidors, my hand just wanted to like go in my purse and get my camera. Like my whole arm was like shaking. And I was like, well, okay, fine. I won't take a picture of that. I'll just take a picture of the floor around that. Like it was just really funny how much I realized I process memories with the camera. But yeah, it was tough not to do any behind the scenes, but it is a super worthwhile trip, a tour, and it's actually not that expensive in all things considered. I really don't
Oh,
think that
definitely.
one is really cost prohibitive. I mean, of course, it's all expensive, but that one is actually kind of quote unquote affordable actually for what you get.
It is. I mean, it's just a little over 100 for the Keys to the Kingdom,
Yeah, I know.
and you're getting lunch. I mean, lunch itself could cost you at least $20.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's not that bad. Plus, you're getting to see if the behind the scenes magic. Now, it does have an age range with the Keys to the Kingdom because they don't want young kids ruining their magic. So the kids have to be a little older if they want to be on the tour. I want to say it's like 12, maybe. I
That
can't
is not
remember.
information that's super relevant to this particular podcast.
Yeah.
I was actually talking to somebody who said like going solo is great because there are a lot of offerings that are only available for adults, and Keys to the
True.
Kingdom is one of those. And so now you can do those things and have like a different layer of experience if you're used to going with your kids.
Exactly. And that's
Yeah.
the nice thing that I like is another thing that people don't realize, like Haunted Mansion, which I love.
Hmm.
Um, you can actually skip the stretch room if you want to.
Yeah.
And that's another thing, like, because I have knee issues, I have a hard time being on that movement walkway.
Mm.
So if you just tell them I'll skip the stretch room and I need to have be stationary, they'll take you back this back hallway. It's kind of like behind the scenes, which is really nice. And they'll put you on the doom buggy, and you don't have to worry about the walkway.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great tip. I think there's just like, one of the wonderful things about going solo to Disney is that if you are worried about other things happening, like Disney takes
Mhm.
care of you so well, right? And so if you are
Yes.
a person that perhaps has mobility issues or sensory issues and you're like, well, I think if I just do a solo trip somewhere it would be too much. Well, at Disney you can get all that taken care of so that you can just enjoy. Like that's a really great tip. What's something that you do solo at Disney that you wouldn't or couldn't do with friends and family if you went?
Um, I think one thing is a lot of my friends don't like character meals, to be honest.
Mm,
That's one thing that I absolutely love to do because it's a way to meet characters without having to walk, be in lines
yeah.
in the parks for them. And you get to have that personal little experience of them coming up, giving you hugs, autographs, whatever. A really cute thing I did, I mean, it was basically just for research because I do, I helped plan travel on the side too.
Mhm.
That I went to the Play and Dine at the Disney Junior Play and Dine, and most adults, if you'd said, "Hey, we're going to go to Disney Junior Play and Dine," they're like, why?" Um,
No.
but I'm like, well, I get to get these pictures of the Disney Junior characters that I can bring back to, like, my family members and stuff like that, like my nieces and things like that, that I can bring pictures of that maybe they can't come down to Disney right now. And
Mhm.
they get to see that and have little signatures and things like that. So it gives me a chance to do something that normally a somebody that's, be embarrassed to go. I wouldn't. I love doing things like that.
What's your favorite character meal?
Oh, I would have to say Topolino's Terrace
Oh, good one.
because the view from there is phenomenal.
Yeah.
When you're out there on the rooftop area and you go outside, it is just stunning. And then the characters, because I'm into art and stuff like that, and I love French and Italian things, so that's like my jam right there.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about that one is it's not a buffet. That it's you order off the menu and it's like a buffet price, but everything's just brought out to you. Um, that whatever individual item, because you have to pick an entree, and then they have like some pastries that's automatically given to you, and then of course the famous pog juice, but they call it, like, I want to say Riviera juice or something like that there. Um, but yeah, I mean that's one thing besides, like, the little single rider things that are nice being solo, is the character meals, because a lot of times groups don't necessarily like it. They think it's just for kids, and it's not.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, this is something that just came to mind, but like if you're there with a group, then you have to like share that time with all the members of the group.
Really. I want my time with Mickey.
That's right. I want the hug. What's a tip that you would give to people going to Disney solo? I mean, I think one of the tips would be to do character meals. Is there another tip that
Yeah.
you'd want to share?
um I would say luxuriate. One
Oh, I
thing that
love
I
it.
love to do is to resort hop. You can actually have the best time at Disney and never go into the parks.
Yeah, totally.
That you can resort hop to the different resorts and go to Disney Springs and have an absolute blast. And I actually did that back in 2020 before the parks were actually opened.
Mm-hmm.
I went down and I went and made some reservations at some different like I went to California Grill and went to Topolino's Terrace and went down to Disney Springs and had the best time. And I never even went to a park.
Yeah. Yeah. I know there's so many things to do at the resorts. And like I've said on the podcast so many times, like the resorts, like Disney wants you to go to these places. Like you
Hmm.
have already, like, quote unquote, paid for the privilege of, like, Disney is just a giant hotel that's the size of a city. And so they want you to go to all the different places in this hotel. Like, go to French Quarter and get beignets, walk
Oh yeah.
over to Riverside and just like enjoy the river. Take the boat back to Disney Springs. Like, go and explore all these places. I've done so much exploring and no one has ever remotely looked at me and they're like, "Oh, should you be here?" Of course I should be here.
Another thing that people don't realize is that some of the resorts they have extra offerings that you don't have to be staying at that resort to do.
Yeah.
Like one thing I did back in 2021 was Sangria University over at
Yes.
Coronado Springs at Grand Destino at the Three Bridges Bar and Grill. That was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, you get to learn this history about sangria. You get to have try their four different sangrias, then you get to make your own. It was a lot of fun. Another thing that I would love to do is the Riviera, I mean not the Riviera, the Coronado Springs actually has a mosaic thing that you can sign up for.
Mhm.
Never done it before, but I would love to do it. And it's a nice little, keepsake to take home.
Yes, so I'll tell you something about that. Number one, most resorts do it, including the All Stars.
Hmm.
Actually, it's just that Coronado has a sign up through the like Disney app. But when I was staying at All Stars the last time, I saw that you could do the mosaic. It was a slightly like a different shape. And so that was good to know. I did the mosaic and I was texting with a friend being like, "Oh, it's going to be so embarrassing. I'm going to be the only adult." And there were no children. It was all adults. It was all adult women, all of them.
Hmm.
And I would say like a third of them were there by themselves. And
Hmm.
doing it at Coronado is really great because you get to be up in the Dahlia Lounge and it has a great view as well. But
Hmm.
yeah, there's so many things to do. And so like yeah, you don't need to go to the parks.
Another thing back in 2021, I actually did a land and sea adventure. I
Ooh.
did my first Halloween party at Magic Kingdom, and then I went on a Halloween on the high seas Disney cruise.
Fun.
And never been on a Disney cruise, never been on a cruise actually. Had the absolute best time.
Yeah.
And you could find this thing, it's called fish extenders, that you just look on Facebook and find out like your trip time. And then they have this little spreadsheet you fill out of like your favorite characters or whatever. And you do like kind of like a Secret Santa gift exchange with each other on the ship. You just leave this little hanging basket outside of your room, and you come back every day to surprises, and they come back to surprises from you.
Oh, that's so cute. I mean, that's the
Hmm.
thing about Disney people, right? Like all differences aside, you're just Disney people at that point, right?
Exactly.
Like when you're there and you're like, yeah, sure, I'd love to like buy presents for strangers. No problem. Well, hopefully we'll see you in the parks one day.
Oh, definitely. I'll be
Yeah.
there in November.
You're gonna miss Halloween then.
Yeah. I'm actually doing my I started getting involved in Run Disney. I
Oh, cool.
I'm doing my first in-person Disney race. I've done virtual ones.
Yep.
And then I'm doing my first half marathon. I've only done 5Ks in the past.
That's
So I'm training
exciting.
to do a half marathon. And my friend's coming down to cheer me on
Okay.
with me. And I am um, we're just making this just a luxuriating adventure. And one thing that's a lot of fun is Run Disney in Wine and Dine Time is they have an after party.
Ooh.
So you can go. You don't have to be a Disney Run Disney person to do it.
Mm-hmm.
If you do the challenge or the half marathon, it's included in your registration fee to go
Okay.
to the party. But anybody that like friends, family members, or whatever, you just pay for a ticket and you can still go. So what we're doing is we're not having a park day that day. I'll be doing the race, and then that evening, the party's from like 10 to 1
Mm-hmm.
a.m. But you can get in at 5.
Right.
So basically, you got 8 hours in the park
Yeah, yeah.
that you can do from 5 to like 10 before the party starts. to be like a regular park guest and then be there for the party.
Yeah. Perfect.
And they're going to have like rare characters you can meet at the party. And then they'll have like some of the food booths open. They'll have a DJ. And of course, the Eat to the Beat concerts will be going on.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Well, that sounds awesome. We'll have to touch base when you do that trip.
oh, definitely.
So, Yvette, what's your favorite park and what is something that you want solo travelers to like do or eat or see when they're at that park?
Ooh, that would probably have to be Hollywood Studios.
Okay.
And you must do Rise of Resistance. That is the best ride. I know it breaks down a lot because it's trackless vehicles and a drop of water will make those vehicles stop. But that is the most best ride. It is worth paying for it. It's worth going in the line for it because it's a 20-minute experience.
Yeah.
It's not a ride per se. And then my other thing is to go to Baseline Tap House.
Mm.
They have the best, like that's a nice luxuriating spot to go to. If you like beer, they've got like craft beers. If you don't want beer, they have some wines and some pre-mixed drinks. But they also have a strawberry hibiscus soda
Ooh.
that is refillable.
Ooh.
And they have the best pretzel and beer cheese. So good. And then they have like a $12 charcuterie board that they have. It's nice there. Then occasionally they'll have some other little offerings too. But one hack I haven't done yet is people say to take the strawberry hibiscus soda from Baseline and get the hog gelato and make it into a float.
Ooh. See, this is why you gotta talk to people. All these tips. Yvette, this has been so wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing all of your your knowledge and your stories. Is there anything else you want to make sure that solo travelers know in this podcast?
I would say that don't be afraid to go solo.
Mm,
You'll never realize how fun it is to actually do it.
that's a great tip. I love that. I have, yeah, like if you're worried, you're on the edge, just do it. And you'll be like, oh, this was amazing.
Because you'll be surprised how many solo people you may find while you're there.
100%. 100%. How can people get in touch with you if they want to follow your adventures?
Oh, I'm on Instagram and it is Disney underscore vet, VETTE. And also probably you could look up Yvette as well, but my Instagram is Disney underscore vet. And I would love to, for you to follow my adventures. I'm also in the process of turning some of my adventures into YouTube videos soon.
Awesome. Well, for those of you listening, the link to Yvette's Instagram is going to be in the description of this episode. And if and when the YouTube is ready to be live for people, I'll update that as well. So the time might be different than when we're talking to when that link is up, but check the link to see if it is there. Yvette, this was just so wonderful to talk with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Samantha. It's been an awesome journey to discuss with you all my lovely Disney adventures.
Bye. Hi, Solos. It's Samantha. I hope you like this episode and all the episodes of Solo Magic, the podcast about the magic of going to Disney World solo. Just a reminder that you can listen on Apple, Spotify, and on YouTube. No matter where you're listening, please make sure you subscribe and rate and share with others. You can also connect with me on Instagram, Disney_solo_magic, as well as Facebook, Disney Solo Magic. And we have a new blog, DisneySoloMagic.blogspot.com, that will complement the information that we talk about on the podcast, as well as be able to highlight some different tips and tricks and information that will make your solo trip the most magical ever. Until next week, bye.